got the recipe for this from Hello magazine in a waiting room about 10 years ago, and it has become my favourite apple dessert. So this cake comes in two phases. There's the apple side of it and then the cake side of it. We make the apple side first. And what I've done is I've peeled and cut up in quite small pieces 3 good sized Bramley apples. And what we do is we stew these apples. Now, you stew these in a pot, and to flavour these we'll put on a sprinkling of cinnamon powder, just like that, just like you sprinkle salt on your dinner. And I've already measured out 6 cloves. Now, when I'm making stewed apple, I always count in 6 cloves, because then I know how many cloves to take out when the stewing is done. Because the one thing you don't want is a clove in the middle of the cake, because they're quite bitter. Okay, now we put a small amount of water. Now I use a shot glass just to show you the amount of water to use, not too much water in this. I'll let this go and put 2 tablespoons of castor sugar into sweeten the apple. And we'll stew that on the ring for about 5 minutes or so. While that's stewing, we can get the cake side of the operation going. 4 ounces of margarine, 4 ounces of castor sugar, which we cream up, an egg, 8 ounces of flour, that's 225 grams, 110 grams of the margarine and sugar, flour with a sprinkling of salt, and we cream this up now. And we keep a weather eye on the apple while we're doing this. This mix is quite different to the mix that we were making for sponge cakes in earlier episodes. You'll notice that there's double the flour in this compared to the margarine, as opposed to the measurements being equal. Keep an eye on that's stewing up nicely. The reason you use cooking apples as opposed to sweet apples is that the cooking apple, the Bramley apple, collapses as it cooks, whereas the sweet apple will stay intact. And you want the thing to infuse with the cinnamon, and also to infuse with the cake when the cake mix is made. Now, the wet ingredient that we add to the cake is just 1 egg and 4 tablespoons of milk. Because of the amount of flour that we're putting into this, we need more milk than we'd normally put into a sponge mix. And we make sure that that's well integrated in with the margarine and sugar mix. Now, you want to make sure that that's well and evenly mixed into that, because when the flour goes into this, the flour also needs to be well integrated into it. You just stir that up. And you see the bottom is already nearly cooked, and you just have to stir that in to let the rest of the apple cook properly. Now, the next thing we do is we integrate the flour and salt into the mix, and as usual, we sift this in from a pipe to get the air into the mix. Now you can see this is quite a dry mix compared to the sponge mixes that we were making in earlier episodes. So just spread that out. And you can see the apple is nicely stewed there, and that's perfect for the mix because all the spices have been incorporated. Now the thing we have to do now is to take out the 6 cloves that we've put in. Now I've managed to get out all 6 cloves out of the mix. Sometimes it's quite tricky because they hide on you. Immediately I put this into the cake mix. Again, you have to mix this into the cake mix as evenly as you can, because the cake mix is so dense compared to the usual sponge mix that it needs to be incorporated with the apple very evenly around the bowl. Now, that's it, nicely incorporated. What we do is we put it into this sort of a tin, which is an expandable tin, and we just pour it into that. And I already have the oven on at 180, and you put this into the oven for 1 hour. So we put this into the oven, and that's it. So it's wait patiently now. And take the cake out of the oven. Let me see. And there you have it, a delicious apple cake. You have to leave this cake in the tin for 15 minutes after it comes out of the oven for the ingredients to consolidate. And it's absolutely delicious with cream or custard, hot or cold. And ever since I started using this recipe, this has never failed. So it's absolutely foolproof. So enjoy.